All right, let's take our Glock totally apart. Depress the magazine catch here. Draw the magazine. Since it's part of the gun, we're going to go ahead and tear it apart. Now, there are a couple different ways you can do this. This foreplate is an aftermarket aluminum foreplate. But on some of the factory ones, you can come in like so with a couple screwdrivers, one on each side to spread it apart. Because if you'll look at this protrusion right here, on the magazine body, this part, it engages notches in our foreplate. But that's way too difficult. Just don't even bother with that. Turn it over. Our magazine foreplate latch plate snaps into this hole right here. Take a punch, shove the foreplate all the way in as far as you can, like so, and then push forward on our foreplate until it starts to leave here. Push it forward off of the magazine body. I like to go to here, and I like to keep my thumb over the bottom of the magazine, so as the foreplate comes off, there it is, then my thumb captivates the foreplate latch plate and the magazine spring. At this point, I can allow the foreplate latch plate to come out and the magazine spring and follower. So set these off to the side. Now our magazine spring fits around the follower, and we got a little dog leg right there that fits through a hole in the bottom of the follower. Pull it out and up. We'll lay those guys off to the side. Now, make sure the gun's clear, because we have to pull the trigger, put the striker in the fired position. Turning the gun over, I like to wrap my hand around the grip area right here, use my fingers to grab that rear sight, and I can simply squeeze to pull the slide to the rear, 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch. That's all that's needed. Then I can pull down on the slide lock here and here, pull the slide back, pull that slide lock down, holding it down, I then allow the slide to move forward. I can release the slide lock, pull the slide right off the front of the gun. Going to lay the frame off to the side right now. Focus on our slide. A recoil spring guide assembly, we simply push forward and raise up, just like that. Comes right out. This is a semi-permanent installation, so we're going to leave it alone. Lay it off to the side. Our barrel, we're going to grab our lug here, pull it towards the belly of the slide, the bottom of the slide. Now the hood will come into contact with the extractor and you can't pull it up any further. So now we're going to push our barrel forward towards the muzzle until the hood here clears our extractor and then also clears the belly of our slide here. Now our barrel can come back over the belly of the slide and right out of the gun. Lay it aside. Pretty simple so far. Now right in front of the striker, you can see this plastic sleeve. That sleeve needs to be pulled forward or towards the breech face and then held there. I'm going to turn this over to show you the back plate. That's this plate here. Once that plastic sleeve is pulled forward towards the breech face, our back plate should slide down out of the slide. You can see it starting to come down. At that point, I can actually release the tension on that plastic sleeve. And you can see the plastic sleeve right in there. Now be aware, right up here, right where this slight cutout is our extractor spring and plunger. So I'll keep my finger over the back, or fingers over the back, and I know they're in the way. There we go. There's our back plate. And that is an aftermarket back plate. Most of them are plastic, reinforced with a little bit of metal. Once the back plate's off, we can grab the sear surface of the striker and pull the whole affair to the rear. I'm going to turn that sideways and get a different view. And there's our striker assembly. We'll tear that apart in just a moment. Right here is our extractor spring and very long plunger and plastic guide here at the back. And you can see that those things all stick together. So grasping the plunger, rotate and pull the extractor spring off of the plunger. And the plastic guide comes right out the back. Lay those off to the side. Our extractor right here is what's retaining our firing pin block plunger. So we're going to push in the firing pin block plunger and rotate our extractor forward and out. So I can reach in with my finger and push up on the firing pin block plunger there. Using a dental pick or my scribe, I can pull that extractor out. Now the extractor's laying on the breech face, my finger's in the way, but I'm going to release our firing pin block plunger. There's our extractor, it fell out. And our firing pin block plunger is right there. Now the spring on a firing pin block plunger comes out, but sometimes it's a little tight. There's a little step down inside that actually grabs that first coil of that spring. Lay that off to the side and the extractor. We have our sights. Now these are aftermarket sights, but they're very similar in how they go in and come out as factory. I'm going to show you a set of factory sights in just a moment. So for our rear sight, we can use a non-marring punch. I happen to have a nylon punch that works well. A piece of dowel will work as well. It is a plastic sight. You can tap them in and out. Lay that off to the side. Now the front sight, turn it over, and looking down inside, we've got a foot right here. And right in the center of that foot is a wedge. Let me get it out so you can see it. It's just a little wedge. Don't lose it. And that wedge fits in the center of our front sight. So as it goes in, the two legs on the front sight are spread apart, keeping it tight in the slide. Once you have the wedge out, you can reach in and pinch those legs together slightly, and it'll snap right out. Now let's take a look at one of the factory sights. So here we have a different slide, and you can see we've got a factory front sight. Now it's got a round peg, not a wedge, but it's a tapered peg. It does the same thing. I'm going to work it out like so. I don't want to lose it. But again, there it is. Just a little wedge, or excuse me, a little plug. And it's tapered. We don't want to lose it. Same process, just push down on the front sight. I'm going to squeeze those legs together a little bit. And there's our front sight. Now let's take that striker apart. I like to take a block that holds a punch pretty well and slide the striker and that plastic sleeve over the top. Simply so I can grasp this spring, pull it down, and then the two little sleeves, which keep falling off. I'll show you those in a minute. I'm going to relax the spring tension here first. Now we can focus on the two little sleeves. You can get a better idea of how they fit. Both those sleeves fit together around the shaft of the striker and fit down inside the spring. The first coil of the spring fits around here, holding them together on the striker. Lay those off to the side. Now we can withdraw our striker spring. Lay it off to the side. Now the striker and its sleeve come up off the punch, and the striker comes right out the back of the plastic sleeve. Pretty simple. Lay those off to the side. Move this stuff out of the way because we got to dive into the frame. First thing we're going to push out is this pin right here, and it literally will push out. It's a plastic pin. Lay it off to the side. If it's tight, you can give it a little thump, but it shouldn't have to. It should slide right out. Next, this pin right here, the upper pin. It's your locking block pin. Lay it off to the side. Now, as I withdraw it, the slide stop spring was resting against the punch. Our slide stop can move back and forth about 1/16 of an inch. So while we're pushing on the trigger pivot pin, push the slide stop spring forward and then bring it back halfway. And I'll show you what we're doing. I'm going to go ahead and withdraw the punch at this point and the slide stop up and out. The slide stop fits over the trigger pin, and its spring, this leg, pushes the slide stop down into and back into the groove in the pin and retains that pin. Set those both off to the side. Now, before we do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about our spring. You can see that the slide stop itself is this stamped sheet metal. It comes down, wraps around right here, the spring is put in place, and then that is pinched. So that's a semi-permanent installation. If the spring breaks or you have to remove it, take and grind a screwdriver to where it'll fit inside that groove to pry that apart a little bit so you can remove the spring and reinstall the new one and then pinch it a little bit with a pair of pliers. But as it is, it's a semi-permanent installation. Just leave it alone.
Are you enjoying what you're learning? Then subscribe to the American Gunsmithing Institute's channel right now. Thanks.
Now, with both pins out, our locking block can be pulled straight up. Now, you saw me take a screwdriver and hook it right here. That's because sometimes they can be a little snug. Comes right out. Now grab our ejector and pull our trigger bar, ejector, connector, rear insert completely out of the gun. Going to lay that off to the side at this point. We have our slide lock. It's this piece right here, moving up and down. And this long spring right in front, right here. That's what spring loads that. Let me turn it around here. There's our lock moving up and down. The long silver spring right here in the front is what keeps that in place. Spring loads it up, but also retains it. So we're going to push that spring all the way down. Going to lower the lock into the frame and then push it out one direction or the other, whichever way is easiest for you. Once the slide lock has started to come out, you can pull it out the rest of the way. I'm going to turn it over. This little notch right here is where that spring rests to prevent this from sliding out, and spring loads it up. Lay it off to the side. Now the spring sometimes can be very difficult to come out, and sometimes not so much. Now let me show you what I did. I worked my scribe down underneath until I could pull this straight up and out. Now, you don't want to wedge something in there and pry it up because you're going to simply break your spring, and you don't want to do that. But there's not much room. I'm going to go ahead and put it back down in there a little bit. Not much room to reach down there and grab it. Once it's to this height, then yeah, you could go in with some tweezers or needle nose pliers and pull it out, but you got to get it that high first. So just go slow and be careful. It's one of those things that if you don't have to take it out, then I don't recommend you do it. It'll come out, but if you happen to break it, then it can be kind of a headache to get the remains out of the frame. Last thing we're going to take out is our magazine catch. All right, in this view, you're looking down into the magazine well. Get my pointer out here. And down inside, there's the magazine catch, and that long silver guy is the spring. Now I'm going to push the magazine catch. See that? That's how our magazine catch works. Now you can see the notch right there. That spring has to be moved over and out that notch. I'm going to try and do it where you guys can see. Now I'm using a split screwdriver. I'm going to try it first. Grab that spring. Grab that spring, move it over and out of the notch. Now the magazine catch can move out. And we can grab the magazine catch, pull it straight out. So now we're going to reach down inside, grab that spring, pull it straight up and out. Lay it off to the side, and that's our frame stripped. Lay it off to the side. I'm going to take that trigger group apart. Now, as it comes out of the gun, the trigger bar will be laying right here next to the connector. I'm going to bring this portion of the trigger bar off of the connector. I'm going to rotate it around and up, like so. Now the trigger bar comes right down off of the trigger spring. Lay it aside. You can rotate our trigger spring all the way around. Let me turn this around so you can get a better view. I'll do that over again. Here's our trigger spring. Rotate it all the way around until the spring comes up and off. Lay it off to the side. Our housing, push right here on the connector and push the connector straight out of the gun. Turning it around. You can continue to withdraw the connector. Lay that aside. Now our trigger bar, you know we got our safety in here. And you can see our trigger bar pivots from this pin, the safety pivots from this pin. If you turn this over, they're blind holes. They're not meant to be removed. So, that's our Glock totally taken apart. I'm going to stretch and get a drink and come back and show you how we clean this guy.
Did you enjoy this sample? If you want to learn a lot more about this firearm, then click on the link to buy the complete Armors course from AGI, which includes instruction of design and function, along with disassembly and reassembly down to the last part, cleaning and lubrication. Hey, click now.